Listen to me, you that pursue righteousness, you that seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, and to the quarry from which you were dug. Look to Abraham, your father, and to Sarah who bore you, for he was but one when I called him, but I blessed him and made him many. These words first came to a people who were not in a good place. They were in exile. The people of Israel had been taken away after the destruction of Jerusalem and taken to Babylon. The destruction of Jerusalem, something that was never supposed to happen, had happened. The temple had been destroyed, also not supposed to happen. The throne of David sat empty, also not supposed to happen. And so they sat in exile and wondered what might happen next. And these words, in the second half of the prophet Isaiah, come to them. Listen to me, you who are in exile, who pursue righteousness, you that seek the Lord. In exile, they experienced a profound sense of isolation, literally taken from their homeland, but also isolation from what they thought was going to happen in the world. They didn't know what might happen next. In some ways, they had even forgotten who they were. Today, many people experience such feelings through the proliferation of data about this and from people from all ends of the political spectrum agreeing that there is a problem. We have an epidemic, so-called, of loneliness in this country and in the world. This loneliness epidemic has many causes, many side effects. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's a cause and what's a side effect because they look very similar. But we have, without a doubt, lowered levels of trust between individuals and their neighbors, people they don't know well, lower levels of commitment to community. We have the proliferation of technology and its addictive sides in social media and screen usage. We experience this kind of loneliness in space. It's a loneliness that separates us from each other, but we also experience this kind of loneliness in time. We feel disconnected sometimes from what has gone before and what might come next. There's a sense of isolation in time as well. Researcher Hal Hirschfield has actually done experiments about this, about our dislocation in time. And he got some participants, put them in a scanner, and asked them to do a few things for him. The first thing he asked them to do was to describe themselves right now, and to describe one or two people that they loved and knew really well. Tell me about them, what they look like, what do they enjoy, what kind of person are they, what kind of person are you? And he looked, and certain parts of their brains lit up when they were talking about themselves right now and when they were talking about people that they knew well and loved. So that's the sort of loved ones part of the brain. And then he asked them to describe really, really distant acquaintances. Describe the person you walked past on the way into the building today. Describe someone that you saw in the grocery store yesterday. So they tried, they're describing these things, and a different part of the brain lit up for describing a stranger or a really distant acquaintance that was separate from the loved one's part of the brain. And then he asked them to describe themselves in 5 years, 10 years. Describe yourself in the relatively near future. And which part of the brain do you think lit up when people describe themselves in the future? Was it the loved ones part of the brain or the strangers part of the brain? It was the strangers side. Yeah. When people were talking about themselves in a few years, it was as if they were talking about a complete stranger or a very, very distant acquaintance. Now, this is not inevitable, he found in his research. There are things that we can actually do to make our future selves feel less distant, feel less like strangers. One tool he tried was showing someone an image of what they might look like in 5, 10, 20 years. That usually got some synapses firing, made it real for them. Some people found really good results in writing letters to their future self. That helped them feel like their future self was more of a real person, someone that they could love. And to the people in exile in Babylon who felt this sense of disconnection, of not being able to imagine what the future held, God, through the prophet Isaiah, gives another option for how they might understand and connect with what they would do next. He says, "Listen to me, you that pursue righteousness, you that seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, and to the quarry from which you were dug." To this place of exile, the words of Isaiah come to remind the people of Israel who they are, where they have come from, and where they're going. They are a people hewn from a particular rock, descendants of one who became many through God's blessing. So they're reminded of who they are, get a little bit more groundedness, and they're reminded of what that blessing for Abraham was for. Over and over again, the prophet reminds them that the blessing is for all nations. They are reminded to remember what the blessing was for all along. For from the beginning, Abraham did not receive a blessing and become the first of many, for that blessing to sputter out and die, for it only to rest on him, or even on his direct descendants, but that all the nations of the world might be blessed. This never ending, never stopping, ever growing blessing. So, from this place of exile, the people of God look back and remember this and are strengthened to move forward. And they keep moving forward, and sometimes back, sometimes forward, and sometimes back, and sometimes forward, until one day that blessing would reach all the way to Austin, Texas, to Lakeway, to the shores of Lake Travis. And so, in this place, we too can ask and be reminded what our blessing is for, who our blessing is for. What this blessing that began in this place, in a dirty little bait shack down by the water in 1960, This blessing that has seen thousands of people brought together in this place and united to God and made descendants of Abraham. This blessing is for all of us, and it is also for those that we have yet to meet. And if Hirschfield's experiment is any indicator, those we have yet to meet includes ourselves in 5, 10, 15 years. Those people who we will become together, and with those we have yet to meet. This blessing is absolutely for those who feel loneliness, who don't know or have forgotten what it feels like to know where they come from, where they're going. And all of us who are inheritors of this blessing need to recognize that it began with someone else. All the way back to Abraham, through all of those people who nurtured the faith of those who would nurture the faith of those who would nurture our faith, who planted seeds that would become what we inherit right here, right now, and what we are tasked with blessing others with. So as school starts up again and activities pick up, life gets busy, and we prepare for another year together, there's no time like the present to ask ourselves, how do I want to make this blessing continue? What concrete steps, what concrete forms of service, what concrete forms of love am I willing to give so that this blessing continues? How would you like to keep it alive? As these concrete actions, these ways of serving each other and those we haven't met yet, is how we keep our future selves and those we haven't met yet in the loved ones' side of our brain, rather than the stranger's side. Thanks be to God for this blessing. May it continue. Amen.
Amen.